You're listening to the Female Fitness Systems Podcast, where we talk about fitness, nutrition, hormones, and self-care. Because let's face it, we can all use a reminder to look after ourselves more. Now here's your host, Melanie Durrett.
Hey everyone, it's less than a week before Christmas, but I wanted to get this podcast out because I know it's a time of year when a lot of you will struggle to make good choices. So today I'm going to give you some tips to help you stay on track and limit the damage that you would have from eating too much over the holidays. Before we start, I want to preface it by saying that it's important that you enjoy your Christmas break and not be too obsessive about what you eat. With that in mind, you probably shouldn't be trying to lose weight over the holidays because that will affect how much you enjoy them. But it's also a really important time to try to not gain weight. So how do you find this balance? I like to tell my clients to focus on maintaining their current weight over the holidays. If you go into the holidays with the goal of maintaining your current weight, then you won't undo all of your hard work from the year, but you create some space to relax and enjoy yourself as well because you aren't trying to lose weight. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into my actual tips is why it's important to not gain weight over the holidays. A lot of people mistakenly think that it's no big deal to gain a bit of extra weight. In January, they plan to start being more regular at the gym and eating well, so they think they'll lose it all anyway when the new year rolls around. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Every time you lose and regain weight, it gets harder to lose weight the next time. Some people blame this on age, but actually it's due to some adaptations your body makes when you lose weight. I've written a blog post on this topic. It's called How to Prevent Weight Loss Plateaus and Rebounds, and it explains the adaptations in more detail. I'll link to that in the show notes for this episode in case you want to read more about it. But basically what you need to know is that when you lose weight, your body makes certain adjustments to stop you from losing weight. Your body is trying to keep you at a certain weight because it wants you to have enough fat for survival and also to support the reproductive functions that women's bodies are built for, basically having babies. So things will happen, that these adaptations will happen, and they come in the form of you get hungrier, you burn less calories, and when you have periods when you do overeat, your body will overcompensate. It's this overcompensation that I want to talk about today. This is relevant to the holidays because this is a time when we'll be over-consuming a lot of food. If you've been dieting for a while or eating a certain amount of calories and all of a sudden you eat way more than normal for a couple of days, there's an effect that can happen called fat overshooting that causes your weight to rebound. Not only do you regain weight, but you actually can overshoot your previous weight. And this is really common. Your body overcompensates and it puts on even more fat than you had before as a way of protecting you in case you diet again in the future. So not only do you end up fatter than before, so you have more fat mass than before you even started dieting in the first place, but your body also adapts in such a way that it really hangs on to that extra weight, so it's even harder to lose. This is actually proven in studies. Studies show that the more people engage in dieting, the more weight they'll actually gain in the long term. So our goal is for you to not keep dieting and regaining the weight, and dieting and regaining the weight, and dieting and regaining the weight, because every time you do that, it gets harder. That's why I really want you to understand that while you should relax and enjoy the holidays, it's important to be monitoring your weight and not gaining weight. So don't try to lose it because that's going to affect how much you enjoy the holidays. But make maintaining your current weight your goal. So with that in mind, let's move into my tips for the holidays. So I've got 5 tips for you. And the first one has to do with making the right food choices. So when you're facing a big table of Christmas food, or maybe you're out in a restaurant with your colleagues and wondering what to order, what should you choose? My advice is always to start with protein. Regardless of whether it's a big family meal or you're eating out, if you choose a high protein option, it's usually going to be leaner than a high carb or a really high fat option. So basically what I'm suggesting you choose is meat and vegetables. So if you're in a restaurant, that might be something like just steak and veggies, or maybe a piece of salmon and veggies, or some kind of salad with the dressing on the side. If you're at Christmas dinner, then what you should load your plate up with is leaner meats and lots of veggies and salads. That way you're going to have volume but less calories. A bit of stuffing and potatoes, those sort of things are fine as well, but have less of them and eat more of the lean turkey and that sort of stuff. The other thing that you should keep in mind when you're making your food choices is that fat has 9 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbs have only 4 calories per gram. So the more high fat stuff that you eat, the more calories that you'll get. Think about the cheesecake at dessert or deep fried nibbles and canapes at parties. Those calories will add up really fast. If you're having dessert, look for the lighter options rather than stuff like the cheesecake. If you're in places like New Zealand and Australia, fresh berries are often put out with desserts. So can you have just berries for dessert? That's a really nice light way to finish a meal, and you won't feel so deprived when everybody else is walking around eating something. That's usually what I do. I'll have a big bowl of berries for dessert. So that's my first tip. My second tip has to do with managing your calories through the day. If you know you're going to have a big Christmas lunch or a dinner out with friends, you can eat less in the morning to balance out your calories. This works for whenever you have something planned. It's actually something that my partner and I do most Saturdays because we like to have bigger, nicer meals than we would on a weekday. So what we do is we eat a little less earlier in the day so that we have the space for a bigger evening meal. It's something simple that works really well. And it relates to my third tip, which is also about calories and burning more calories through the day. So if you know you're going to have that bigger meal later on in the day, it makes sense to try to burn a little more calories during the day to create that extra space for eating more in the evening. I'm not saying that you should go totally crazy and, try to exercise out bad eating, but what you can do is just be a little more active than normal. Like, say, my partner and I, we go for a long walk on Saturdays just to create that bit of extra space for the extra calories that we'll consume later. This is also something really simple you can do on Christmas Day, and it's a good way to just get more family time in. Go for a long walk with everybody, or if you live in a colder climate, go skating. Get out and get active, and you'll burn off those extra calories that you're going to consume. The more active you are, the more calories you're going to burn. So it's also important that you don't stop exercising over the holidays. If you normally hit the gym but you can't because you're away, you can still do stuff like, burpees and push-ups and body weight glute bridges. There's all sorts of things you can do to just keep your activity levels up and burn those extra calories that you would have if you were hitting the gym regularly. My fourth tip has to do with mindful eating. People consume a lot of extra calories without even thinking about it. They nibble as they prepare meals, they grab a chocolate as they walk by the candy plate, or they drink stuff offered to them without even really thinking about it. These extra calories add up quite fast, and that's even before you've had Christmas dinner. So just be mindful about what you're eating throughout the day. There's no real reason to be picking at food before the actual big meal. And my fifth and final tip relates to mindset. For this one, I'm going to borrow an idea from Pete Evans. If you don't know who Pete Evans is, he's an Australian chef well known from the TV show My Kitchen Rules. I heard an interview with Pete Evans where he talked about eating healthy when nobody else is. He offered the advice of not being afraid to fit out when everybody else is trying to fit in. I love this advice because it's something that I've struggled with, and I know a lot of you struggle with as well when you're trying to eat healthy. It's really tough to say no to other people who offer you food or drinks that you don't really want because you're trying to stay on track with your healthy eating. And unfortunately, these people will often give you a lot of grief for trying to eat healthy or choosing not to drink. If you want to, you can try to explain to them why you're doing it. Sometimes that helps. Or you can just quietly pat yourself on the back and remember that you're doing something really good for your health. You've got goals and you really want to stick to them. So just remember that you're in the right here, and it's probably not that helpful to try to argue with them about it. So just quietly kind of pat yourself on the back and just remember throughout the holidays, if somebody is giving you grief about eating healthy, don't be afraid to fit out. That's what it takes to be above average, and what a great way to start the new year. On that note, I hope you all have a wonderful break. Thanks as always for listening, and I will talk to you again soon.